host, Robin Torres. Our guests today are Adam Ehlert and Brian Bruce, both of the Kansas City T-Bones baseball team. Adam, owner of the T-Bones, is a transplant to Kansas, having moved the not-yet-named T-Bones from Minnesota in the fall of 2002. In the months outside the T-Bone season, Adam and his wife Heather enjoy rooting for the Kansas Jayhawks. Adam is a graduate of that other basketball powerhouse, American University in Washington, D.C. Away from Community America Ballpark, Adam serves on the Turf Council, the board of Providence St. John Foundation, serves as a charter member of the Village West Rotary Club on its board of directors, and is president for the 2010-11 year. Brian Bruce became the voice of the T-Bones prior to the 2010 season. He is a Rockhurst High School alumni and earning a bachelor's degree from Marquette University and a master's from the University of Kansas. Brian began his sports broadcasting career on the radio. Brian is a huge Marquette Eagles basketball fan, and he will always be a loyal Chiefs, Royals, and T-Bones fan. Brian is excited to be living his dream of being a broadcaster in professional sports and is thrilled to be doing so in his hometown. Welcome, Kansas City Community College, Adam and Bruce. Thank you for being here with us today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so tell us, Adam, what was the process of and moving the T-Bones to Kansas?
Well, it was I'll say a fun process, especially after 8 years. I can look back at it as being fun. We selected Kansas City for a number of reasons, mostly the size of the market and the warmth of the market, and I mean that in two different ways, and I'll get to that in a moment. But mostly and most specifically because of Kansas City's rich baseball heritage. We have a major league team, the Royals, across town, and we are all Royals fans, but also with the significance of the Negro Leagues and their history here. And the parallel that I'm particularly fond of is that the Negro Leagues really were the original independent baseball, which is what the T-Bones are. So those are the reasons we selected Kansas City, and we're thrilled to be here. Now we're entering our 9th season. How we moved or chose to move, I will address, a couple of funny stories, most specifically weather-related, and that's particularly prescient here on this snowy winter day. We moved the team from northern Minnesota, from a city called Duluth, Minnesota. Duluth is right on the edge of Lake Superior. Lake Superior is a very cold and the deepest of the Great Lakes. The water never gets above 40 degrees, meaning the surrounding air doesn't very often get real warm. It's tough to operate a summer business in a city like Duluth, mostly because of the weather. It was also a smaller industrial city, and jobs were leaving the city. Long story short, our last year there we had 3 nights called on account of fog. Pretty tough to play baseball when you can't see the center fielder. We also had nights on a regular basis where coffee outsold beer, and so tough for us to make a living doing that. And again, finally, weather related, I wore wool socks to the ballpark more often than not. So after many years here in Kansas City, it can be 90 degrees all summer long, and I will never complain.
Okay. Now the T-Bones, there are different leagues. The T-Bones is in an independent league. So tell us what the difference between the major, minor, and independent league is.
Great question. Again, we are professional baseball, but we are independent professional baseball, meaning we're not a farm team for anyone. Certainly, or specifically not for the Royals across town. The difference in a farm team is they are charged with player development for the parent club. An independent team, we're not involved in developing players, although that does happen rather naturally over the course of a season. We typically have 4 or 5 or 6 players whose contracts get purchased by an organization. But the difference that you'll see day to day is our players are here to win. So there's less focus on a prospect being developed to be able to play several years from now, And the focus really is, how do we assemble 22 or 23 guys that can help us win today, tomorrow, and next month, and win a championship this year.
Good, good. I want to focus on you, Brian. Brian, for just a moment. Now, you are a native Kansas Cityan.
That's right.
From Rockhurst High School, and then going on to Marquette. What is your involvement in sports at all?
I grew up playing sports my whole life. My dad was a big influence in my life, overall, but also in the sports realm. He was a long-time head basketball coach in Kansas City area for 20 years in St. Joseph, Missouri. Starting out of college, he was at Bishop LeBlond and then went to Bishop Ward here in this area, and then Rockhurst High School for 14 years. So I grew up around basketball in general and sports, and going to every practice and every game when I was a tiny little kid running around, just kind of always at the gym with my dad. And then it wasn't just basketball, that's what he coached, but it was also all sports. He played college baseball. He played in the Van Johnson leagues. He was a really good pitcher. So I grew up playing baseball, and I had my own personal hitting coach at home, who knew my swing better than I did. And so I grew up around sports like that. And my dad not only played sports and coached sports, but he shares that passion for sports. So I pretty much I love sports, but pardon me, but I had no choice. That I grew up in that household, and that was just the way it is in the Bruce household, that you love sports. My grandma loves sports. Everybody does. So I grew up around that, and then I played sports all through my youth. And then at Rockhurst High School, I played basketball, football, and baseball freshman year, and then focused on baseball and played varsity baseball there. So I just grew up around sports. As far as like kind of the rules and knowing how the game is played in basketball, football, baseball, these different sports, it just kind of came naturally because you're around them all the time, and you're talking to people who know everything about them, coaches or your dad. So it was kind of just fostered a love for sports. And then early on I decided, I know that I want to be a broadcaster.
I was going to ask you about that because you have this voice. When did you decide that broadcasting was something you wanted to get into?
I remember thinking that. Actually, even when I was a kid, when I would play, baseball in my driveway, I would commentate on the game when I was playing it, and I would call the game while I was playing it, or you'd recreate a moment, like a dramatic home run or something that would win the game, and you'd hit the home run, but you'd also call it how the broadcaster would call it. So I remember doing that. But then when it became a real thing was probably in high school, when you're looking at colleges and what are you going to major in, and I just knew I wanted to be around sports my whole life. And I guess everyone's dream, Adam's, mine, and every other little boy in America, pretty much, I wanted to play Major League Baseball, but about 1% of 1% is good enough to do that. So quickly you learn I'm not going to be able to do that, and how else am I going to be involved? And truth be told, using my personality or my communication skills and being around sports is better for me than trying to play them anyway. So
do you think your family environment, being in sports, help you understand the nuances of the game?
Oh yeah, like I said, just sort of being around my dad my whole life, and the Bruce family, they all just love sports, have been around sports. When my dad was playing college baseball, my grandma and grandpa were at every game. My dad played basketball and baseball at St. Benedict's, and now Benedictine and Atchison. So, just being around him my whole life, it wasn't like I ever remember sitting down and saying okay, these are the rules of the game and you have to learn these. It was just you just sort of came to you because you're around it so much. So whereas other people might not understand the rules of sports, it's just sort of for me, it was a natural thing to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk more about the T-Bones team in just a moment. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back with Adam and Brian, both of the T-Bones baseball team in here in Kansas City. Okay, so now, Adam, I want to ask you about any funny stories or fun experiences with bringing the T-Bones to Kansas City.
That's a great question, Robin. And I'll try to be concise, but really there's been a lot of fun with it. Again, this was 8 years ago, but from the moment we announced we were leaving in Duluth, yeah, that was a tough several weeks, as people were concerned, people were upset, people were angry. With that, though, I'm rather proud that we did it the right way. We didn't leave town owing any money, and we closed up shop and did it in a respectable way. They now have a team that's a better fit for their city, both the size of their city and also for the weather of their city. They have a collegiate summer league team, and they play only half the schedule that we play. So they can concentrate it in the months in Duluth that are actually almost warm. But really, once we left there, and that was early September 2002, all of the fun began here 2 days later. We broke ground on the stadium September 4th, 2002. We scrambled and built the ballpark in 9 months and 2 days to get ready for a June 6th opening day in 2003. And really, as I said, it was a whirlwind, but that was all of the fun that came about in setting up the office, setting up the staff, transferring some of the players really to our new club, as well as all the continual stuff of scouting new players. But then we really had the fun emerging new business and new small business stuff of naming the team, naming the mascot, coming up with our colors and our logo, working on selling sponsorships, which allowed us to get to say the name of the ballpark, Community America Ballpark. If I had to pick a name, I don't think I'd come up with a better one. But it happens to work very well with our marketing partner with Community America Credit Union. But I think that really speaks well to what the ballpark has become. It has become a meeting place and an asset for our community. And we're thrilled to be here in Wyandotte County.
It has. How did you come up with the name T-Bones?
I wish I could take the credit for it, but no, we held really a public name the team contest with a handful of local media, most significantly the Kansas City Star. We received several thousand entries in a handful of different areas, NASCAR or racing related, because we were in the shadow of the Kansas Speedway, which at the time was really one of the only things open in Village West. Blues and music related, based on Kansas City's jazz heritage. One that I thought was amusing, but we wanted to be oversensitive to, which was weather and tornado related, which might have been very clever, but I think we're all sufficiently frightened of tornadoes. And the final category was meat and barbecue. And while we were perhaps a little bit enamored with the idea of the Kansas City strips, we didn't think that was totally in the theme of our family entertainment model. So we're thrilled with the T-Bones.
Okay. That was, great name, great team, great everything. Brian, you broadcast live from the games, and it streamed on the radio. Is it at the same time?
Yeah, I broadcast the games from the press box, whether we're home or on the road, and then the broadcast that I'm doing live at the game in the press box is going out over our radio station. We partner with Intercom Radio, so 1660 KXTR, and then some games are on 610 Sports Radio, and we had a few last year that were also on 980 KMBZ. So the broadcast that I'm doing live is going out live over the radio station in Kansas City, but then it's also going out over the web stream, so you can go on to tbonesbaseball.com, click on Listen Live, and you can listen on the internet feed as well.
So that really goes to show how successful the team has been and how popular they are in the Kansas City metropolitan area.
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously I had people that care about me or care about the T-Bones specifically, like listening to games and commenting, but I had a lot of people that I don't personally know, commenting on things, so what you're saying is being heard, and that feels great, because I think the popularity of the T-Bones is growing year by year, and it feels great to care about what you do like I do and have people also caring about what you do and listening. So
great.
Can I jump in there?
You sure can.
I love Brian's broadcast, and I also love simply the element of baseball on the radio. There's something wonderfully American about that, and I think, well, listening to a baseball game on the radio really does define a true fan, as opposed to the different discipline of watching it on the television. But again, I think there's something wonderfully calming and entertaining at the same time of listening to a baseball game on the radio, especially perhaps a minor league baseball game. I will admit, when we're on the road, I don't necessarily listen in as relaxed of a mode as I would like, as I'm really hanging on every word that Brian utters, because we have a lot at stake. But I just think that's a wonderful little bit of America.
Now, are you able to be at every single game?
I'm at every game here.
Okay.
I'll make a few trips each summer to watch us on the road. But
so when you're not at the game, you're listening.
That's really a ritual at my house, and as well as some of my family members spread around the country listen on the internet.
All right, let's go to the players themselves for the T-Bones. What is the tryout season like, and what is the process? And I know you have managers that handle selecting the players or recruiting the players, but what is that like?
It's really kind of a fascinating process. Again, we're professional baseball, but we are independent baseball, and what that means is independent baseball is really a first opportunity for a guy right out of college who may have been a college standout but was not drafted for one reason or another, or independent baseball is a second or a third or a fourth chance for a guy who's played in an organization at the single A, double A, triple A, or quite often at the major league level. So with that, there's I hate to sound crass, but there's no shortage of players. It's largely a weeding out process. Here over the course of the winter, that's what our manager, Tim Doherty, does. It's pretty neat and pretty efficient nowadays. You can do it all, not all, but a significant portion of it on the internet and by simply picking up the telephone. Tim's been in baseball, I believe, in excess of 25 years and has a great network of coaches and players that he knows. Harkening back to when he played here at Kansas City, Kansas Community College.
Right.
But basically, he can pick up the phone and touch a reference on a player very easily. And through the winter, we're constantly looking at upgrading positions. And the tough part of that is we have a very strict salary cap. So it's a balancing act. It may be easy to upgrade one position, but not if it shoots us salary cap wise. So there's a balancing act going on.
So when they are, I guess what I want to know is, do you deal with players who have agents or directly with the players?
There are probably 30 or 40% of them that have agents, and again, those are a lot of those guys that have played at the AA, AAA, or major league level. And at the other end of the spectrum, quite often it's a kid right out of college who said, you know, I thought I could make it, I thought I was this close, and I didn't get a contract. So Tim quite often deals with that kid directly.
Have you had any major league players come to play for your team?
We've had several, and in fact, I guess of most note, of most local note, we've had a handful of former Royals who have come to the T-Bones really to continue playing or play again and get that shot at matriculating up again. Who have we had? We've had Ken Harvey, we've had Calvin Pickering, David Segui played for us for a year. And then also conversely, and I think this is more of the fun story, I think as I mentioned earlier, we have a handful of guys whose contracts get purchased each year, and ultimately their goal is to make it to the major league level. This past year we had our first ever, and really the first ever in our league that we know of a guy wearing an independent team uniform in May and June and making it to the major leagues in September. Justin James, who actually had played at the University of Missouri over there.
Okay.
Played for us for 2 years, and last May and June he was our closer out of the bullpen, and he was lights out. The Oakland A's signed him, moved him to AA quickly, matriculated to AAA very quickly, and he was called up by the A's in September. And from what I hear, Brian was on the bus with the guys when he made his debut in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, his first game was at Yankee Stadium, which is unbelievable. I mean, and that's his major league debut. So he always dreamt of being in the majors. He had been in AAA prior to coming to the T-Bones a few years prior, but he had been released. So he was that close, didn't get there, didn't know if he'd ever get another chance. As Adam said, he was lights out as our closer, gets the chance, goes and excels in their minor league system, and then gets called up. So they play at Yankee Stadium. He strikes out Derek Jeter and Robinson Cano. First batter he faced was Derek Jeter, struck him out on a slider. And we were on the road, I think, facing Lake County. So we were on the bus from the hotel going to a game, which is your afternoon ritual there about 2:30 or 3. And all the players had their smartphones out with their video. And they're like, look at this, that's him. And they were watching video of him striking out Derek Jeter, and it's unbelievable.
Oh, wow. So that just goes to the quality of players that you get.
Yeah.
The quality of players and also the potential.
Yes.
Any player in uniform could make that ascent at any time. And it's a matter of showing up and putting the work in and doing what you love doing,
Okay.
and you might get that shot. And I think it was a pretty inspirational and motivating moment for those guys on the bus.
That is great. Wonderful.
And
We're gonna go to break, and we'll come right back with some more thoughts about the T-Bones. We'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back. We're here with Brian and Adam of the T-Bones baseball team. Now, we finished out, we last talked about some of your major players that have gone into the major league, right? Mm-hmm. Now I want to know about your Legends game and how that came about, where the idea came from, and some of the players that have played in that game.
Really, it's one of the things that I love about our product being independent baseball is we're very flexible in coming up with new ideas and really offering ways or coming up with ways to offer professional baseball in varying forms to our fans here in Kansas City. As far as the Legends game, again, really one of the things that attracted us to Kansas City was the city's strong baseball heritage. And so we've been able to work with a couple of guys that are well connected with the really the Major League Players Alumni Association and organize this game, which has raised money for charity over the course of several years. But really these Major League alumni love the chance to get out there and play again, even though not necessarily in a Major League field, in a Major League stadium. But still, professional baseball is wonderful, and even just an exhibition, they really enjoy it, and just as significantly, our fans really enjoy it. So we've been able to bring, and I'll ask Brian to list some of these guys that have come back, not only for the Legends game, but we also do an annual Kansas City A's reunion night. Now they don't play, but they come out and they sign autographs and take pictures, and we honor them with a pregame ceremony. But I was remiss in mentioning one element that was rather critical in how the Legends game began, and that was with a good friend of the T-Bones in Willie Wilson. Again, he's been a great asset for us in helping organize those games, and we even went so far 2 years ago, where we had a wonderful night. We actually signed Willie to a T-Bones contract where he played for us for one night, and he started in center field. It was really kind of too bad that his Major League career ended somewhere else than with the Royals. So it was really, again, a thrill for our fans to see him out there, and I think it was a little bit of a thrill for Willie to be wearing a uniform that said Kansas City across the chest.
Right.
And that was one of our favorite nights in recent history. Brian, you want to mention some of those players that have come back for either of those dates?
Yeah, a lot of them are from like the classic Royals teams, world champion Royals or the 80s Royals that were always in the pennant race.
And a lot of Willie's cohorts over there.
Yeah, Amos Otis, Willie Wilson, George Brett. I don't want to leave anybody out. Those guys I know were there. I have a good story about Amos Otis, actually. He was so competitive during his career. That's one of the things that made him great, and he was a great player for the Royals during those great pennant runs in the 80s. And I've heard a lot about that from family stories about A.O. and how good he was. But I guess even Chris Brown, our general manager, told me this. When he came back and played in the Legends game, he still had that competitive fire so much inside of him that I think, and so did some of the other guys, he hit a home run off of somebody in the game, hit one out of the ballpark still, like later in his life. I mean, now he's older, hasn't played in the majors for so many years, hits a real home run over the left field fence. And then whoever was pitching was so competitive that they like whizzed a ball by him in the dugout because they were kind of mad that he had showed him up. So these guys still really care. I mean, they still have that competitive fire that made them great. So those guys have played, and then I would be remiss if I didn't mention Buck O'Neill. He was a big proponent of the T-Bones and really supported all Kansas City pro baseball, but he was around a lot of T-Bones events when he was able to be, and so that was a true legend as well.
Now, when you're, I'm sorry, did you want to?
Well, that's a great reminder about Buck O'Neill, and I will offer, similar to what we were talking about earlier, independent baseball, again, is a modern-day precursor of the Negro Leagues. And so, again, we were thrilled to have that relationship with the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and especially with Buck when he was with us. And in fact, we were so fortunate that Buck actually came out and he played when we hosted our league's All-Star game in 2006, and it was really spectacular. He actually was on the starting roster for the visiting team. He got up and he took an at-bat, and then in the middle of the first, we announced to great fanfare a trade where Buck had been traded to the other division. So therefore, he was able to come and take a leadoff at-bat for our side. And it was really amazing. He was up there at 96 years old, taking an at-bat, and really to thunderous applause from our fans, which was really fun.
We treasure Buck O'Neill here as well. He is he was inducted on the Mid-America Education Hall of Fame, so we're very proud of getting to know him and having that relationship with him. So great memories. When you're broadcasting, what is the process of getting out or getting to know what the stats are on the other team? The process of getting that information out there, as far as when you're broadcasting, you have to know.
Well, I have absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of really, I want things to be the way I want them, so I'm prepared. And I have my own scorebook that I made that has all the different areas that I want to have, and all the different columns and kind of statistical columns that I personally feel like I need to know during games at hand. So then the first thing I do is go get the lineup card from each manager, so you know who's starting and where they are in the lineup, what position they're playing, any name pronunciations you might have, because I learned early on the worst thing you can do in broadcasting to look unprofessional is mess up names. Like, you just can't do that. So I take a lot of pride in making sure that you have all that down. But then actually, from my career before coming to the T-Bones, I was doing a lot of high school and college sports. So to be honest with you, like at the professional level, it's a little bit easier with the preparation, because a lot of the stats and things that I would have to collect on my own doing high school and college sports and do all that groundwork, that is something that a lot of the media relations directors do. So I will take the information they give me and I'll put it in the appropriate areas and memorize some of it and have it at hand next to me. And then after, it's all about preparation. Then after you get done with the preparation, really the easy part is calling the game, because the only reason that would be hard to me is if you weren't prepared. As long as you're prepared and you have everything laid out ahead of time, then calling the game, you just let your natural ability take over that. And that's really the fun part. The work really comes in when you're preparing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be out of time in just a second, but I wanted to know any specific or special promotions that you've got coming up. And we have to have you guys back on the show. So,
thank you. We'll be eager to come back as we're closer to the season, and we can announce really some more specific promotions. But a lot of the old standbys are back. Fireworks are back. One that we debuted this year called Kids Eat Free. That's back on every Monday night. Really, the first 2,000 kids out there get a voucher for a meal at the ballpark. Otherwise, really, again, a good assortment of giveaway nights, theme nights. What else do we have?
Well, one that was huge last year was the T-Bones authentic jersey giveaway, and just from talking to our promotions director the other day, I saw kind of a layout of what our jersey is going to look like again this year. So that went off huge last year. In fact, we had one night and we gave away some of the jerseys, and unfortunately Mother Nature didn't comply. But then the second time we put it in, fans were equally as excited, if not more. So it's going to be another big one this year with our jersey giveaway.
Good deal.
It will, and I think we're not totally intentionally shying away from specifics right now. But again, the season's a couple months out. But I do think fans have a good time no matter what night they come out. Again, parking is always free. Tickets are affordable. There's not a bad seat in the house. So we really are affordable family entertainment every night, no matter what the promotion is.
Okay. Well, we want you guys back when it comes closer to the season, and I want you to bring along some of the managers as well. I'd like to get them in the studio.
We will.
Thank you guys for being with us today, and I'm so glad the T-Bones are here. Can't wait till the season starts, and we'll see you next time on Conversations.